And Chris Proudfoot, if you're listening to this, you can't hold that over my head. I told you. You're going to piss me the fuck off, and I don't give a fuck who knows. It's your fault. It's your and your wife's fault. You guys don't deserve to be around kids.
15-year-old Sebastian Rogers is still missing, and even though a massive search was conducted yesterday, there is still no sign of this precious child. My heart goes out to his father, Seth Rogers, who has not stopped searching and looking for answers for his son. In one of the latest interviews that Seth did on Justin on TikTok's channel, we saw real and raw emotion and heard some disturbing details in this case that we've never heard before. Sebastian has been through a lot in his life, but this incident caught me really off guard and made me question just how well Katie Proudfoot supervises her son. When Sebastian was about 7 years old, he was essayed by a teenage boy that the Proudfoots allowed in their home. I believe the boy was about 13 years old, and that's quite a big age difference. Not sure why a 13-year-old would be allowed to play with a 7-year-old in the first place, but he took away Sebastian's innocence. I can't believe how traumatic that incident must have been for Sebastian, but his mother didn't bother to get him help until last year. That is really disgusting to me. She should have got him help immediately to deal with the trauma. Seth tried to get Sebastian help. He talked to his doctor, and the doctor said she knew nothing about the incident. To make matters worse, remember when we heard earlier in this case that Chris Proudfoot didn't want Sebastian around his daughter Faith? Well, we didn't know the reason. It's because he was afraid that Sebastian would do the same thing to Faith that the teen boy did to him at 7 years old. It really breaks my heart. Sebastian is a victim, he should have got the proper help. Chris Proudfoot told Sebastian's grandmother, Seth's mother, that her grandson is a pedo. Can you imagine that type of person Chris is? To talk about a victim that way, a young child that should have been protected.
Katie and Chris let a child into their house that was 5 years older than my son. My son was 7 or 8 at the time, and this kid was 13. And she has a habit of not checking on her kid. I would never let some kid that's 5 years older than my son play with my son anyways. It's like, why do you want to play with my son? There's a 5-year difference. That's a pretty big difference. You're 13, and my son, you're a teenager. My son is not a teenager. He's still playing with Hot Wheels and Legos, and he's building things. He's playing video games, and you're a teenager. You go out and you have your own, age appropriate group that you play with, and they were letting this kid play with my son, and they weren't checking on him. And then this kid took my son's innocence, and he molested him.
So you take your time.
And there was nothing I could do in California because the kid was 13. But they let that happen. And they didn't bother to try to even get my son help until last year. Here, my son has just turned 15 in December. It means he's been dealing with an emotional, stressful, traumatic incident for the last 7 years. And I've been trying to help him. I've been trying to get him help. Going to talk to his doctor and telling them what happened. And for the doctor to tell me, she was like, I knew none of this stuff. And I'm like, really? Because he's supposed to be seeing a therapist for this. And she's like, well, he's not seeing the right type of therapist for this type of trauma. I care about my son. And actions speak so much louder than words. And there's just no justification for the actions that I have seen from them. They're not parents. They're not parents at all.